How are we doing, guys? And welcome back to the player ratings. It has been a while. We've both been busy. We both lead very busy lives. Yeah, let's just say that. Anyway. It's a nice excuse, isn't it? It's a nice, really easy excuse that. But we are genuinely both very, very busy at this moment in time. My man Phil is very busy at the tennis at this moment in time.
Yeah, mate. I'm in Nottingham doing the WTA with work, so bit different. I'm usually at football, but it's what it is. You got to get the experience where you can, taking it all in. Looking forward to talking about some football. Thankfully, I'm with a load of scouts that do football anyway, so that's most of the conversation all day. But looking forward to talking about Leeds in a non-discriminatory manner.
Yeah. So we've done the defenders. We had quite a lot of defenders, and this one's going to be slightly different because we're going through the midfield today. And yeah, this is going to be quite a short video because I wouldn't say we're short on depth, but looking at through the kind of cover notes on this, I've only got 4 players to do the ratings on from the whole midfield. I've only got 4 players to rate on this particular show. We will, of course, do the attackers as well. But if that doesn't sum it up, the kind of lack of depth in those areas, I don't know what will. We're only rating 4 players here based on minutes
Imagine if
played.
we hadn't signed Adam Forshaw as well. Great business.
There you go. So let's get into it. We're going to start with the most defensive-minded to the more attacking-minded of the midfielders first. So, of course, let's start with our very own Mr. KP. So, I don't know, do you want me to lead this, mate? Or we've got slightly different views on KP this season. Now, the first caveat is Calvin has started less than half our games this season in the Premier League. So, in terms of a rating, this will naturally be lower than what it probably is in reality. But you've got to go off, like we did with the defenders, like we did off with Coops. We took a mark off Coops for lack of minutes. It's only fair to do the same with KP. For me, I look at what KP's done for the last 3 full seasons in the Leeds United shirt, and I just think this season it's been a drop off. I think it has been a drop off. I think in some games he has been as good as ever. I think he really has. I think the Brentford away game, I thought he was outstanding in. Liverpool at home earlier in the season, I thought he was our best player on the pitch by a mile. I thought he did a really, really good job in front of the back four. A few other games as well that come to mind that have escaped my mind. There's Tottenham away as well, actually, against Harry Kane. He did a really good job in that game too. Ultimately, we lost 2 of those 3 games. So that kind of sums up the lack of kind of help from the team really in general. So I look at KP, it has been a drop-off. It has been injury hit. He's not really fully got going. I think the signs were better in the last 2 or 3 games under Jesse Marsh. It was starting to adapt to a new system as playing in the midfield 2 rather than as a single pivot. I still personally think his best position is as a single pivot, but I still think he can also play in a 2. I think he has got the skill set to do it. He's done it for England. Yeah, I think the season kind of finished almost too soon for KP, really, to really get the momentum going again. So I've gone a 6. I've gone a 6 out of 10. A 6 out of 10 isn't bad, but by KP's standards, I don't think he was at the same level. Not entirely his fault, of course. We've not had a set midfield all season, but for me, not KP at his best this season. But Phil, you've been even harsher than me. I feel quite harsh doing the 6 because he hasn't been. He's probably been a bit above average, but you look at the lack of minutes, the lack of momentum. I'm quite comfortable with a 6. So yeah.
I think generally speaking, I do tend to go 1 lower than you on most people anyway.
Just to be awkward. I've
got no 0.5s in tonight. I might squeeze one in later if we're like edging towards one or the other. But just a lot of what you said actually is my reasoning. And obviously fitness comes into it. He's not been fit for a vast majority of the season, hasn't played anywhere near the number of minutes that perhaps he wanted to and we wanted him to. But when he has been in, up until the last couple of games where I did feel like he started to click with Marsh's system a bit better, generally speaking, I would say 6 is average. So I'm saying he's had a below average season. I don't think he's done himself justice. Whereas the last 3 years under Bielsa, you'd struggle to go any lower than a 7 because every season was above average. Or
I'd say I think KP probably 9. Yeah, I would really say 9 out of 10 the last 3 seasons.
Absolutely. You'd struggle to go any lower than a 7. Like most people would say 8s and 9s and maybe even a 10 for one of them. But yeah, I mean, the fact that Southgate the other night decided to start him on the bench and he came on quite late says a lot. I think a year ago, you would never have seen Calvin Phillips on the bench. And generally speaking, I know that might not be a first choice 11, but I think it is more of a reflection on just the number of minutes he's played.
To be fair, did you watch the game? You watched the game? I thought he played well when he came on, to be fair. I thought we actually had a bit of sparks to us when he I thought he did a better job. I thought the midfield looked better. In terms of his passing, I think he stopped a really dangerous counter-attack as well at 1-0 as well, where it was kind of like a 3 against 1. I think KP's going into it. I do think the next, was it 3 England games to go? Is it, Phil? Is it 3 England games to go? I reckon he'll start 1 or 2 of them, possibly 2. He might even start tomorrow night at Germany. Or tonight, actually, when this video goes out. But I don't think he was coming back to his best, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't think he's fully fit yet. I don't think he's fully match sharp yet. We always said when Bielsa was in charge that you need a run of games to even, or in the under-23s, to get up to match sharpness to be able to play in the first team. And obviously, he was thrown back in for us and came back out, came back in. Hopefully now he is, like you said, one of the things you said that really hits the nail on the head for me is the season ended too soon for him. He was starting to pick up and get used to being in that double pivot, and it was starting to suit him. So I think next season, at the moment, touch wood, it looks like he may well be staying. We're still going to have one of the best holding midfielders in the country in our starting 11, which if we can keep him fit and get 30 games a season out of him, or 30 plus, then hopefully we can avoid a lot of what happened this year.
I'm being genuine here. I still thoroughly believe that there's only 4 players in the world. I'm too genuine here. This might get clipped up or whatever. But in terms of playing, there's a single pivot midfielder in this Leeds team. Rodri, Fabinho, Casemiro, Thomas Partey. The only players I can think of who can play that role as well as KP.
One more. And it pains me to say it, Declan Rice.
No, I disagree. I think Declan Rice doesn't really play as an out-and-out holding midfielder. He plays in like a 2.
Yeah.
For me, I think Declan Rice, personally, I think Declan Rice is amazing. I don't pain me to admit that at all, but I think he's more box-to-box for me than what KP is.
Yeah, I think he could easily do the role. I think if we were to do a swap deal with West Ham, we wouldn't be upset, put it that way.
I don't... No, look, listen, if you got Declan Rice, you wouldn't be upset, but would he do the role as well as what Calvin does? I don't think Calvin could do what Declan Rice does in terms of playing box-to-box and carrying the ball the way Declan Rice does, through the thirds. But I also don't think Declan Rice could play as disciplined as what KP does in that kind of sense. But listen, they both play together for England because they're slightly different players, but it's a bit of a rabbit hole, isn't it, when you start talking about Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips? They're both top players and both should be starting at the World Cup. There's no question about that for me. But yeah, I think that's just the point I was making with Phillips. I think all in all, I think he's played decent. I think he's played okay, but lack of minutes, lack of momentum, maybe a little bit harsh because it's KP. You got those expectations. We're both referred to it. But I'm not going 5. I think 5's way too low for me. I'm pushing from a 6 here. I'm pushing from a 6. 5 seems hard. Considering some of the players are giving 5s.
You're going to take it regardless, mate.
I'm putting my foot down here, Phil, because I'm thinking that the comments are going to be bad enough for giving a 6. I feel bad enough giving a 6.
I'll remember this, and later on, I'll be putting my foot down on at least 1 when we get.
That's fine. I've got a good idea which one it'll be. I think everyone in the whole who's watching this will know who it is. In fact, why don't you put in the comments now? Because it's not actually going to be on this video where Phil's going to put his foot down. It's going to be on the next video. I think we all know who this is going to be. Yeah. Anyway, let's go with 6 for Phillips. 5's harsh, Phil. I can see where you're coming from, but Phillips will give a 6, or I'll give a 6. I'm putting my foot down there. So let's move along. Let's move along to the midfielder with the most minutes. Now, the fact that we've only had 4 players on this who have played enough minutes to qualify sums up our lack of depth. But Matthias Click, once again, has been pretty much an ever-present in the Leeds team. Yeah, maybe sometimes in and out of the team from time to time a bit more. But again, let's be honest. Listen, Matthias Click is one of the promotion heroes. I think he had a really strong start to last season. I think he's had decent games this season as well. But ultimately, he's not the player he was, and it really hurts to say that. I think that's natural with age. I think that's natural with going into a different league. In terms of the whole midfield not being settled, I said the same with KP. I'll say the same with Click. The midfield's not being settled. I still 100% want Matthias Click to stay at the club. I don't think there's any reason to get rid of Matthias Click. We're already lacking depth. I think Click's shown that he's ever-present. He's someone who never gets injured, always fit, will always press, will always be a really useful player. Does he give you that technical excellence that he did in the Championship? No, unfortunately, I don't think he does now. And that's me being totally honest. I think he has been an amazing player for the football club. I think it's a bit like the Pablo kind of thing for me, really, where you've just seen it's been like a really sudden kind of drop off. He's gone from real highs like what Pablo was, in the Championship, to then suddenly, literally in the space of a couple of months, he's not really making the difference in what he used to make, kind of thing. It's not been like a sudden, not being like a gradual decline. It's just been like a sudden one. But I still think Matthias Click's a good player. I still think he's good enough to get games at this level. Is he going to be starting it week in, week out if we make the odd signing? Probably not. But I'm still more than happy with Matthias Click starting games next season, covering for injuries. And if he can get a run of form going, not a problem at all for me. Because let's not forget, there is a World Cup on the line for Matthias Click in terms of his place in that Poland squad. And I think there's a reason managers like him. We've seen Bielsa starting pretty much every game. Jesse Marsch has done the same. Paulo Sousa I think it's Paulo Sousa is at Poland, has done the exact same as well. There is a reason for this. Listen, he gets critics. He's had a lot of criticism this season. 6 for me. I don't think he's been poor this season. I think poor's an exaggeration. I think he's been good under Jesse Marsch. I think he's had some, kind of like a 7 out of 10 on Jesse Marsch. Maybe a little bit off it first bit of the season, but I'm happy with a 6 because the minutes played, 1 or 2 important performances. I think the Brighton game, was really important performance. Looked good when he came on against Brentford. Another player where you can kind of say maybe the season's just finished a bit too soon for him, just as he was getting a bit of momentum under Jesse Marsch. But ultimately, will Matthias Click be starting the first game of next season? Probably not for me, being totally honest. Unless he has a good pre-season, probably not. But I'm happy with him being on the bench and coming off the bench. Absolutely not a problem at all for me. He can still make an impact on this Leeds team. 6 out of 10. What are you saying, Mr. Miles?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of that question, it very much depends on who we sign and whether they're ready to go straight into the team, doesn't it? But yeah, realistically, I know there is rumours about him going this summer, but I wouldn't want to see him go, especially like you said, with the lack of depth we've had in midfield for the last few years. I know there is a bit of a dip in terms of maybe not just form, but in terms of maybe his ability. He has reached the wrong side of 30 now. He's played a ridiculous amount of minutes over the last 3 or 4 seasons in comparison to everyone else in our squad. There's only really maybe Harrison that's up there with him in terms of minutes played. Pretty much a stalwart in Bielsa's team, ever present. There has been a bit of a dip. Yeah, I agree. In terms of numbers, I've completely agreed with you. I've gone with a 6. I would say 6 is average. I say he has had an average season. He's not done anything special. He's not been unbelievable like he was at times in the Championship, and the goals have definitely dried up. But I do think there's been quite a bit of unnecessary and undue criticism of him this season when he's not been one of the worst players in this team, not by a long shot. He's been consistent. He's not dictated games. He hasn't got the numbers on the board in terms of goals and assists that we would like, and maybe thinking that that's going to come back next season is a bit far-fetched, but definitely as a squad player next season, I wouldn't want him to leave. And as someone that can be, the only thing that bothers me about being someone that can be brought on at 60 minutes is that did kind of become a running joke of a substitution throughout the season with both managers in terms of, right, 60 minutes, nothing's happening, Rodrigo off, Click on. It seems a stock choice, whereas ideally, I think
I'm not being like awkward here. Like, I genuinely can't remember that sub once, to be fair. If I'm being totally honest.
It's for me, it seems to be something quite often. He does seem to come on or off at around 60 minutes. The pair of them, they seem to be rotated.
Maybe on. I don't remember Rodrigo coming on for Click though. Maybe let us know in the comments who's in the right there. I don't remember. I genuinely don't remember that. I remember listen to Tyler Roberts one, and then we are going to go on to Tyler Roberts at some point. I remember that one. It'd be Roberts on for Rodrigo or Rodrigo on for Roberts. But to be fair, yeah, Click.
Or Click as well. Another sub that happened quite frequently.
Yeah. I don't remember Click and Rodrigo that much though, because Rodrigo seems to be playing, certainly under Jesse Marsh, seems to be playing as more of a number 10. That's why we're not actually particularly doing Rodrigo in this one, because he's playing a lot more higher up the pitch and Click. So I don't remember that, to be fair, but I'm happy to see. What's that?
I said I can't say I noticed, mate.
Fair enough. It's let's not let the Phil's Rodrigo agenda come through on this video. It's not even about Rodrigo. So, Click, what's 8 out of 10?
Yeah, I've gone same as you, mate. I've gone 6.
We agree. Okay, it does feel a bit weird giving Phillips the same as Click, because I think Phillips probably has played better than Click when he's been on the pitch. I do genuinely think he has, but Click's played a lot more minutes. There's a much bigger sample size there over the whole season. Yeah, I'd say that 6 is about right. Average season.
Calvin having a better season than Click's at one of your hot takes. I don't
know that's a hot take, is it? It's not exactly a hot take. Let us know in the comments. What do you think, guys? What do you think? Are you a Phillips fanboy there or not? I don't know. I did also say Calvin, there are only 4 players in the whole world, and I still believe that in the whole world, the whole universe can play Calvin Phillips's role in this Leeds United team to the same degree of quality and reliability and other things ending in TY. Anything else that ends in TY?
Just move on to Forshaw.
Let's move on. Adam Forshaw. Okay. Do you want to start, Phil, or do you want me to start?
I'm happy to go, mate. Go on, mate. Go on. 7. Obviously, if you would have said at the start of the season that he would come back in and, first of all, get the number of minutes that he's had, I wouldn't have believed you. If you'd have said that he'd come back and look not just the same level of player that he was when he got injured in the first place, but better, I wouldn't have believed you. That midfield throughout the Bielsa era anyway, and obviously latterly under Marsh, was one of the things that tore us apart and saw us conceding 5 and 6 and 7. And for a period of time where he came back in, it really stabilised things. Obviously, there was games where we've been on the receiving end of horrible results with him involved as well. But I think in some of those games, he's one of the only players that came out with any sort of saviour in terms of not getting absolutely dicked for it in the media. A lot of Leeds fans will give him time and patience because he's earned it. I really hope that he can be ready for the start of the season. And I would still start Forshaw next season, regardless of who we sign. I don't see anyone that we're linked with at the moment in midfield coming in and taking Adam Forshaw's place for me. I'm extremely happy that he came back in the manner that he did, and proved everybody wrong in terms of the old joke of Forshaw is never going to play again. And as much as Radrizzani's tweet wasn't advised, and as much as I'm not going to say it was like a new signing, having him in there, it made a massive difference, and it potentially could have done a lot more for our season than anything the last 2 people we spoke about did. Nothing that Calvin and Click have done for me have made a massive impact on the season, but I think Forshaw did. So I've gone 7.
I can feel them comments coming in now, like your Phillips agenda. No, listen, I do disagree. I think you've been a bit harsh on Phillips and says I think Phillips has had some positive impacts on the team. Not what you'd normally expect. I'd agree with that. It's been a big drop off from what last season was. But for me with Forshaw, this is going to sound like a really crappy thing to say. And it really isn't intended in that way at all. No one in this Leeds team does the basics better than Adam Forshaw. And at times this season, I just feel like at the start of the season, there's a lot of blame was laid on Bielsa's door. I still don't think it was on Bielsa kind of thing. I still don't believe that. I just felt on the pitch at times, we just didn't do the basics right. We'd start the game okay, first 20 minutes or so, and then next thing, we concede. Then the second goal goes in. Then we're chasing. Then we get caught on the counter. A third goal goes in. It felt like that was a constant theme, especially in the big games against the top teams. That's the theme. And don't get me wrong, as you said, it still happened with Forshaw in the team. But I think certainly when we went to play teams outside that top 6, below the top 6, we were a lot more competitive when Forshaw was on the pitch compared to when he wasn't. I think Forshaw and Phillips is our best midfield, certainly in this Jesse Marsh system. whether we do bring another midfielder in, listen, Calvin will start the season. If Calvin Phillips is still a Leeds United player on August the 1st, whatever date it is, he will start because it's Calvin Phillips. Of course, he's got to start. But that role next to Calvin's the one that's very much up for grabs for me. And I think Forshaw, out of the current players, by far is in the best position to grab it. You know, as I say, the basics, he doesn't give the ball away. He's press resistant. He wins his 50-50s. Yeah, maybe he doesn't give you that craft that a 20, 25 million pound midfielder would. When you've got Phillips there, brilliant ball winner, brilliant ball progressor, brilliant range of passing.
Yeah.
Then you've got obviously Brendan Aronson to throw into the mix. Number 10, intense, can score a goal, can create, can play make. Maybe within that midfield, you need someone who will just do the basics and just be that 7 out of 10 man, that James Milner kind of figure in your team, that Stuart Dallas kind of figure in your team. I think Alan Forshaw for me is the most suited to that. And it's going to sound another really, really weird thing to say, but the game that impressed me most with Adam Forshaw, this will sound really, really bizarre, was that Liverpool 6-0. Now, let me just explain this. That could have been 10 on that particular night. Adam Forshaw was the only Leeds player that night who was showing for the ball at every single opportunity. He had Fabinho pressing, Thiago pressing, I think Curtis Jones was in midfield. He had every single time he got the ball, midfield free, right in his face, compact press, whole Liverpool team pressing, and smelling blood, to be totally honest with you, in that particular game. And quite rightly so with what the final score was. Adam Forshaw kept showing for the ball, didn't give the ball away, just did the basics. And listen, it didn't make a big impact on the game because the rest of the team really, really struggled. Liverpool are arguably the best team in Europe. Probably not right now, but at that time, listen, I'd probably still argue the well up there with Man City. Whatever way you want to put it, it was still a very, very impressive performance for me. The fact he kept showing for the ball. I think he even mentioned it actually on the post-match for that Liverpool game. I'd have to go back through the archives there, but it did really impress me that particular night. Don't get me wrong, that wasn't his best game of the season by any kind of stretch of the imagination, but just remembering that first game he came back, that first start back, the Crew game in the Cup. Yes, I know it was only Crew, but you saw the little touches, you saw the energy. I thought, Alan Forshaw's, listen, I didn't think he plays many games as he has, but he's still a player to be, valued in this Leeds team. He starts that game against Leicester, man the match performance for me in that game. And I think he's been a really reliable player in this team. I think, I'm going to go with 7 because I think at times this season, I genuinely think Forshaw was probably our best player in terms of consistency-wise. Certainly consistency-wise. I think
I'd say half the season. There's a good half the season where I think he's our best player.
Say Cooper and Raf have been our best 2 players this season. Probably Raf, to be fair, has probably been our best. Well, he has been our best player for me. Cooper, in terms of minutes played, has made a big impact as well. But Forshaw, if you can do what he did this season, next season is fine for me. He's fine. Certainly at this moment in time, when we just need to do the basics right, we need to recompose that midfield. What was once the strength of the Leeds team, certainly under Bielsa, Phillips, Click, Pablo. That was.
You'd like to get
midfield 2 years ago.
Out of him, though. You'd like to get maybe 3-5 more games out of him. Get him up to 20-25 games.
Of course you would. You need to listen. You look at Adam Forshaw's injury records. We can't hang our hat on Adam Forshaw, no matter what anyone kind of says. We won't. I don't think we will. To be fair, I think that last injury picked up. And to be totally honest with you, I think that was when the bad run under Jesse Marsh started. I think we were looking. I thought we were going to survive pretty comfortably at that first little bit of the Jesse Marsh reign. He gets that injury. I think it was before or after Watford. I think it might have been before. And then we went on like a 5-game winless run, and obviously the rest is history at Brentford. But I think it would have been much easier if Forshaw had been in that team for certain games. Let's look at the Palace game where we couldn't really keep the ball particularly well. We need that little bit of composure in midfield. But as I said, Phillips, Click, Hernandez was an outstanding midfield for us, but we've now got to evolve. Phillips is still more than good enough. We've now got to find that new composition. And whether it's buying another number 8, I think we have to buy another number 8, whether we think Forshaw's good enough or not good enough to start games for Leeds. I personally agree with you, Phil. I think he is good enough to start games for Leeds, but you've got to be on guard. If an injury does happen, a loss of form, etc., etc. We've got to be on our guard on that situation. So I'm happy enough to agree with you there, Phil. I think I've gone a 7 as well for Adam Forshaw.
Do we have to move on to Tyler Roberts, or can we just skip it?
Well, yeah, let's go on to Tyler Roberts. Because to be honest with you, I was quite surprised Tyler's played the amount of minutes he has. It doesn't feel like he's played that many minutes in terms of obviously got that injury at Leicester.
Are they all off the bench as well?
I'll tell you actually.
How many times has he come off the bench with the vast majority of Ellen Road going?
Yeah, listen. Okay, he's played just under 1,000 league minutes, so 979 minutes, 7 starts, 16 games off the bench. That's very much added to Phil's agenda. That on
Hey, I've got no agenda, none against Tyler Roberts.
I was hoping there'd only be like 6 appearances off the bench, so you could make it look a bit silly there. But no, 16 appearances off the bench is a lot. I think Tyler Roberts' biggest problem, and this is a weird thing to say, is Joffrey Gelhardt doing what he does off the bench in terms of a younger age, obviously less experience. Not just Joffrey Gelhardt, Sam Greenwood, Lewis Bates to an extent in the games he's played, he's looked decent. Charlie Creswell especially, he's looked really good as well. So that's his problem. There's another wave of talent coming into this Leeds team. And Tyler Roberts is kind of in between the experienced players now and this new wave kind of thing. And he's not really, you know what I mean? He's not really got the excuse of being inexperienced anymore.
Yeah.
And he's certainly not like showing that he's not showing the consistency of performance of a Phillips.
He's not going to be in that leadership group anytime soon, is he? Put it that way.
Yeah, well, that's probably the best. Yeah, that's probably the best way of putting it. I think another problem as well is what is Tyler Roberts' best position? We're talking about midfield here, but I genuinely think Tyler's best position is up front. Is he going to be a consistent goal scorer at this moment in time? Probably not. But I think the way he presses, his movement off the ball is good. I think there's less touches involved if he's playing higher up the pitch. I think he gets into good goal scoring positions. A lot of people talk about his poor finishing, and yes, that is a criticism. That's perfectly fair. But I think he's shown at times in the BLs when he did play up front, his goal scoring record is actually quite decent. And I think he got that goal against Brentford. I think is in a 2-2 game. I think that's one of his only games up top. Is he a long-term answer at this moment in time? He's going to have some pre-season, I think. I think he is. Yeah, let's be honest. He's going to have some pre-season. But my hot take is he hasn't been as bad as what people are saying. Yeah. I genuinely don't think he has. I think there's a certain thing when I think there was a game, was it the Everton home game where he came on sort of last 20, 25 minutes and Burnley away very early in the season, where I actually thought he made an impact on the game and we got back into both games when he came off the bench. But because he didn't score or get an assist, he wasn't really given any credit because now in the modern era, and I'm not a criticism, it's just the modern era of football, goals and assists are everything. And that's something that Tyler Roberts, this isn't a controversial thing to say, hasn't got anywhere near enough of them. It's a hard one with Tyler Roberts. Would a loan for the season, next season, be a good move? Who knows? Will he be sold? Will he be a big part of Jesse Marsh's plans? I don't have a clue. I like the lad. I do. I think, when you listen to him on interviews and that lot, I think his attitude is genuinely good. I think he works hard, but listen, there are people in the comments saying that's not enough. We could work hard in the Leeds team and all this lot. I get that. But it's a 5 out of 10 for me for Tyler. I think it has been a below average, pretty poor season when he has played. But I think it's a dysfunctional team anyway for large parts of the season. Probably not playing in his best position for me. 5, I'd probably go for.
Yeah, mate, I've agreed in terms of the numbers. I'll agree in terms of a lot of the justifications you've said. The annoying thing with Tyler Roberts is there is a massive amount of scapegoating that goes on with him. And I want to put it out there, and I've tried putting it out there a few times now. I actually think as a person, I really, really, really like him and I really rate him. I don't think he's a Premier League footballer. I think most people will say that. I don't think he's going to make it as Leeds United's number 9 or even Leeds United's number 10. And I think the chances are in the summer, whether it's a loan or whether it's a permanent move, maybe it is the best thing for both parties now if he does move on. But it did get to a stage, obviously, with the Bielsa substitutions. And then I think Marsh did it once as well. But it was a Bielsa substitution where he'd leave Joffrey on the bench and he'd bring Tyler on, and it would be the groans. And then Joffrey comes on 10 minutes later and scores. And the goals and assist record, like you said, gets thrown at him a lot. But I think there's got to be a lot of time given to someone that takes the level of stick that he does, the confidence battering that he gets from the groaning of the fans when he is being brought.
Is it that bad, though? I think when you're saying scapegoat, I think you're being harsh.
No, I don't think so at all.
To be fair.
No, I don't think so at all. I think scapegoating is the perfect word. I think if one player this season in particular, or over the last calendar year, has been scapegoated more than Roberts, I'd be very surprised, other than by me, who we obviously know who my two are. But Tyler Roberts, for me, has had a really bad interaction with our fans, I'd say, over the last year or so. And I found that disappointing, because I would definitely say so. Even this channel, mate.
No one dislikes no one dislikes Tyler as a person. I don't think there's any whether it's people thinking if he's good enough or not for Leeds United. That's obviously something that gets debated a lot. I think obviously the percentages in terms of people who think he is good enough to people who think he isn't good enough has swung a lot over the kind of last 18 months, especially since promotion. Yeah. But I don't think it's gone over the top. I don't think there's been like over the top abuse, like Twitter's Twitter. You're going to talk to me about things like Twitter. Don't talk to me about things like Twitter. I mean,
but they both had to close their
Twitter
accounts.
wanted Raf sold in January, mate. Twitter wanted Raf sold in January, so I'm not going to pay too much attention to that. I've got a lot of friends on Twitter. There's a lot of the vast majority of Twitter is absolutely superb, but there is one or two who do go way over the top on Twitter. But in the ground, I've not heard abuse as such towards Tyler Roberts. That's just my.
It's not. No, I'm not saying abuse. I mean, in the ground, the only thing that I would say that batters his confidence is when he is brought off the bench in front of Joe Gelhardt, and you do hear the discernible groan of, "Oh." And obviously, most of the season.
But is that towards Tyler Roberts, or is that towards Bielsa who made the decision?
It doesn't matter who it's towards, because it's a reflection on who's being brought on, though. And that can't help a boy's confidence coming on and trying to make a difference to a game. I feel like I said...
Well, it's not like the decision's being booed, is it? There's groans all the time in football.
Yeah, but for his confidence, I said towards the end of Bielsa, and like he's still behind me right now. I took him on holiday with me. Like, I love the man, but one big criticism I said of Bielsa with the man management side is I felt like he was setting Tyler Roberts up to fail towards the end. I felt like he was putting him on, knowing full well that Joffrey was the right choice to make, and letting the fans get on his back and letting the fans groan those touches that were a bit too heavy and groan him even just taking the bib off. I did think there's a bit of a toxic relationship between Leeds United fans and Tyler Roberts, which is unfair on the boy. I honestly feel sorry for him.
So you're saying Marcelo Bielsa just out of spite decided to bring on Tyler Roberts?
I'm not saying out of spite. Saying
I didn't quite get what you were saying.
That was his belief was that Tyler Roberts was the better choice to come on those games before Gelhardt. And 99.9% of Leeds fans would say he was wrong. And I am also one of them fans. I think it was the wrong choice. And I think it got to a point where that substitution happened so many times and it was clearly the wrong choice that you are sending him out to fail. There is nothing he can do. If he comes on and he scores a goal, people will be like, right, fucking finally. If he doesn't score, great, another game where you haven't done anything. I just feel like it got to a point where give him a rest out of the limelight. And thankfully, unfortunately, it came through injury, but he's got that now.
I don't think Leeds fans have been as harsh as what you're saying, though. I mean, let us know in the comments, guys, what you think. I don't think it's been that bad towards Tyler Roberts.
I promise you, tomorrow night or the night this goes out, you look at the comments, and when we've given Tyler Roberts a 5, you have a look at the comments on here and see if I'm wrong. We will get blasted for only giving him 5.
Worse than a 5? I don't think so. Just mostly ineffective when he has come off the pitch, onto the pitch or off the pitch. I'd say Yeah, 5 out of 10 for me. Are we happy with the 5?
I've gone 5. I don't think anyone else is going to agree with us, but I've gone 5.
I don't think he's been. I think any lower than 5's a bit harsh. But let's listen. If you disagree, guys, let us know your ratings for the
48
players.
hours time, mate. Me and you will have this chat again.
Anyway, guys, we've managed to somehow get half an hour out of 4 players. That is our midfield. Hopefully, this time next season, we'll probably have hopefully double the amount of players to rate. Yeah. Well,
just 2 more would be nice.
Yeah.
2 more.
It's, but I think we will. Anyway, guys, absolute pleasure. Hit that like button if you haven't done already, and the subscribe button. We have also done the defenders, and we're going to do the forwards as well. This will be going out on Tuesday morning, and on Wednesday we will also have the forwards going out, where you can see Phil give his thoughts on Rodrigo Moreno. That's what you're kind of watching this for, aren't you? Let's be honest. But anyway, guys,
I thought that was today.
Yeah, he's prepared. He's prepared a speech for Rodrigo's rating anyway. Guys, we'll leave it there. Absolute pleasure as always. See you later.